So it's not like
Exploring
the
Ghana's
exact like you
growth,
said,
life,
something
and
that happened
cross-border
20
travel
years
in
ago. It
Africa
literally
from my
happened
unique
like a
perspective.
few decades ago. So there is a lot of trauma there, right? A lot of trauma that folks from Africa are privileged not to have. I mean, yes, we had, colonialism and things like that, but at least we can say that we have our own country, whereas other folks here might not have that privilege.
And how many times have you gone back to Ghana since you've been here?
Um, say like 3 or 4 times, I think. Yeah, I came here in 2003. I think I've been back like
Okay.
3 or 4 times. Yeah.
And so, like, I have no idea how many countries are in Africa, right?
Mm.
But like, as far as like economic status and like all that kind of stuff, is Ghana like in the lower class, middle class, upper class? Like, is that a pretty
Yeah.
well-off country? Like, are they struggling or
I mean,
just a generality?
so the thing is, I think with, every country, right, there's like, the good parts and the bad parts. If you got money, you'll be all right in Ghana, right? If you, come here, make your dollars and things like that, exchange rate, especially now, is definitely to your favor. Um, but in terms of the country as a whole, Ghana could be better. I would definitely say that. People are now, starting to develop it and things like that. We had, I think, the year of return, and it's still ongoing right now, where folks, a lot of diasporans, go back to Ghana like during the Christmas time and everything, and it's really fun. There's like Airbnb there now. Last time I went back, there was Uber. I was catching Uber and stuff like that. Growing up, yeah, there was no way. I didn't think there would be Uber actually. I was shocked when I went down there and actually could call an Uber. So it's slowly developing, but I think leadership could be better. Um, Priorities could be better. Other areas, other countries that I've seen are doing well and are more developed. See, there's Kenya, there's South Africa, Ethiopia. Even our neighbor Ivory Coast is even, I have to say a bit more developed. But I would say like middle, low middle, stuff
Okay.
like that. But it's still growing, still getting
So
better.
I had a good friend, actually, still a good friend. He was from Ghana. He was a helicopter mechanic. He was
Oh,
stationed in
nice.
Texas, like 95 to 98, right?
Mm.
And he was an E4, right? I mean, he don't
Mm.
get paid a lot of money. He would send money home, and he had like this mansion built, right,
Yeah.
for all his family, right? I'm like, how does this work, right? Like, I
Mm.
know we get paid the same amount, and he had explained to me how the dollar, all the stuff worked, right? And
Yeah.
it's like a mansion, right? Just
Yeah.
beautiful. Like, man, imagine you actually had money, right? We could do
Hmm.
over there. Yeah, that's back in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of immigrants do that, right? Because shout out to the dollar. I mean, the dollar is powerful, right? And the exchange rate definitely helps when you are trying to also build something, right? So a lot of folks when they come here, yeah, they're paying their bills and stuff like that, and also sending money back home to kind of help build either if it be a business over there or a house or something like that. So
So, around the world, most people want to come to America, right?
mm.
Is there a country, Africa, where people say, man, I can't make it to America, but let's at least make this country here in the continent?
Yeah, South Africa,
South
from what I
Africa.
heard.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. They're a bit more developed. I heard like South Africa is almost like the United States of Africa
Okay.
because of it.
So, can you give us like quick dummies 101 of life in Ghana? Like, people never know what's life in Ghana is like, what's like the country's like, what it's like living there, like some this, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean Ghana. One thing that folks can definitely say about Ghana is that it's very peaceful, right? It's very welcoming. We pride ourselves on the idea of hospitality. So there is this culture of if you have a guest, right, you try to bring out your best for this guest, right? In the sense that when you go over to their place or, wherever they stay, that hospitality is also reciprocated. So definitely a very friendly place, very inviting. Um, yeah, people just, you know, try to live life, right? I remember last time I was back in Ghana, I was driving with my cousin and stuff, and I just saw a mango tree just on the side of the road, right? And the interesting part was like it was like dangling off a wall in somebody else's uh house, like a yard basically. And I just think to myself, wow, I can't remember the last time I saw a mango tree. This thing right there. And it was like literally you can walk by, you walk on the sidewalk, and this thing's like right in your face. You almost have to like duck and stuff. But you could see it ripening, right? So it's like you could literally just grab the mango, wipe it off, and just eat it as you're walking by. And that's everywhere. And I was like, wow. that's crazy because in America, one, that's somebody's property.
Mhm.
Two, you would never see a mango tree just dangling off right there. No, they'll be again, you wouldn't try to do that. And three, the only place to get a mango is QFC or Red Apple or,
Yeah.
wherever you go shopping. So,
So this is gonna be an ignorant question, but
uh,
can you start gone like drive through every country in Africa? I'm sure some countries you don't want to drive through, but it's like some kind of international highway system in Africa. You can go from Ghana to
so
wherever.
there isn't a international highway, but there have been people who have driven through pretty much the entire continent, every country, right? So there's like different roads and stuff like that that you have to kind of navigate. But yeah, one, when it comes to borders, right? Africa is interesting in that, well, our borders weren't created by us, right? They were
Yeah,
created by,
the
colonizers and stuff.
British and French. Yeah,
Man, yeah, that whole gang. But so that means is that a lot of folks actually are very connected. Like pre-borders and stuff, it was like I'm just gonna go with my cousin over here, and they're gonna come visit over here. But all of a sudden, somebody in Europe just drew a border in between the path, and I was like, this is a brand new country, and now this is a brand new country. But it's like my cousin's over there. How am I supposed to get over there? So it wasn't our border idea of borders aren't as strong, right? So, for example, in Ghana and Ivory Coast, it's like I call people, who live in Ivory Coast like Ghanaians who speak French, right? And we just speak English because it's like they actually can also speak our native language, but it's like, okay, let's switch to like, a different language. They start speaking French. You're like, whoa, what the heck? Like that's wild. They look like you, right? Like, well, they look like me.
yeah,
So it's like wild to kind of just see that. Um, so yeah, there isn't really a strong sense of borders, around the continent. It's if you want to go over to every country, you kind of have to, get to the border. You're like, hey, I'm trying to come in. All right, cool. Here, yeah, come in. Just don't be crazy out here. And those are like back roads and stuff like
yeah.
that. So
Nice.
yeah.
So, what is a LMHC?
LMHC stands for Licensed Mental Health Counselor.
Is that pretty hard to get, or
Yeah. So after graduate school, right, you should do your degree and stuff like that. You then can apply for what we call an LMHCA, which stands for Licensed Mental Health Counselor Associate, right? And that's the license you get before you've done your, year, 100 hours of supervision, as well as just the hours that you need for face-to-face counseling, right? And once you're done with the required amount of hours, then you can apply for, your full licensure, which is the LMHC.
and what does it mean to be EMDR trained?
EMDR trained means that you've done, let me think how many hours it is. I think it was 20 hours of EMDR training. Um, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's basically a modality that was developed by, I believe her name is Dr. Robin Shapiro, in helping clients treat trauma, right? So it's what she discovered was that in the animal kingdom, right? So say a gazelle, a deer, whatever, after being chased by, a predator, right? What they do is that they move their eyes back and forth. Um, and what research has discovered is that that movement, that eye movement back and forth, actually helps your mind process very traumatic experiences, right? What just happened? Kind of makes sense of, okay, I was going through the plains and then I just got chased by a lion and now I survived and now here I am. Versus when folks are trapped in what we call trauma, right? That processing hasn't happened. So sometimes when they're just walking by, something can maybe trigger, quote unquote, the incident that had happened, the traumatic incident that did happen, and they feel as if they're back again in that situation, right? That's what we call kind of having a flashback moment. And the reason for that is because your mind hasn't processed the thing that happened as something that happened in the past, and now you are okay. So EMDR kind of helps folks be able to process those traumatic experiences as just things that happened in the past, and now you're in the present.
That does that like separate you from other therapists? Does you have that versus if you didn't have it,
Well,
or something you have to have?
no, well, no, not necessarily, because there are a lot of different ways of treating, trauma and stuff, and EMDR is just one
Okay,
modality
okay.
to do that.
And you went to Hope College?
Did
Where's that at?
college is in Holland, Michigan.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so when did you figure out that, well, let me backtrack. Like when you're a kid, most people like I want to be a fireman, policeman, superhero. I'm pretty sure you didn't wake up one day at 4 and say I want
Yeah.
to be a therapist or do this line of work. How
Yeah.
that talk about the process? How that came about? You decide like this is your life's work.
Man. Okay. So let's go back to little Kelvin.